So, and it goes so close that I always open the windows then, so I hear the drones. It's like a Solex getting louder and louder, and then you run. When you know, because the biggest danger, in fact, is the blast. That's the most accidents.
Hello, everyone. Yesterday was the 4th anniversary of Vladimir Putin's vainglorious special military operation into Ukraine. In fact, it's 12 years, 2014 to be exact, since Russia aggressively invaded Ukraine by occupying the Crimea. But in 2014, Western powers chose to look the other way. History may well judge our behavior in the West harshly, and deservedly so. If we're really honest with ourselves, whether military experts or just interested observers, we would have to admit that we did not give Ukraine, population around 38, 39 million, any chance to resist against the might of Russia, population 144 million, 3.5 times bigger. Putin thought it would only be a matter of days before Kyiv would fall, but resist Ukraine has, and most stubbornly, most cleverly, and most courageously. For all their talk and bluster, Western democracies, the United States and Europe, have failed to live fully up to their rhetoric of being supportive. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Over the past 4 years of the war, I've had military experts, some of them army generals, both American and British, who've made various predictions on this show. Some more wrong than right, others more right than wrong about the progress of the conflict and the likely outcome. Perhaps it's still too early to say how the war story will end. No, I shouldn't say perhaps. There's still a lot of fight left in the Ukrainian people, weary though they must surely be. I doubt whether they would ever surrender, and the Russian recruiting machine, as well as the Russian economy, is faltering. Who knows how the war will end or when it will end? But we can only hope that right prevails and that Ukraine retains its sovereignty and the peace and space it deserves to determine its own future. Today, I'll take you on a visit to Kyiv with a recording made a few weeks ago. A long-standing Swiss friend and colleague of mine, well known to some of you who are listening now, has been living in Kyiv for about the past 18 years. And when I asked him if he would be willing to talk to me, talk to all of us, about his life there, he was more than enthusiastic. You will hear his opinions and experiences straight from the shoulder. Martin Pfister, a Swiss expatriate, joins me now in conversation and has much to tell us about his personal experiences living in Ukraine during these years of terrible conflict. My newest guest is a friend and former colleague from Switzerland who's been living in Kyiv, Ukraine, for the past 18 years. I thought he would be able to offer some invaluable personal insights into what life is like living in that city, given the uniquely stressful events over the past 4 years since Russia's illegal invasion. He accepted my invitation, which pleased me very much, and I'm sure will please those of you listening in who know him as a friend and former colleague in Geneva too. So I'm glad to welcome Martin Pfister today as he joins me via Zoom. Thanks for making time for me and all our listeners to the McKay interview.
Good day, Mike. Very good to be with you, and thank you for having me. May I just start telling you that the war started not really 4 years ago for us in Ukraine, but 12 years ago by the takeover of Crimea and the East, which also cost something like 20,000 lives to soldiers and civilians.
You're right to correct me, as 2014.
Yes.
Yes, and when I interviewed the Ukraine ambassador some years ago, she corrected me just as you did. So thanks for that correction. Martin, we have time to cover a wide range of topics about life in Ukraine, and I look forward to our conversation. My first request is for you to explain your current situation and how it is that you come to be living in Kyiv.
Okay, so first of all, I was offered a job with my company, headquarters in Geneva, to move to Ukraine in 2008 as being an expatriate and taking over the lead of a small team over there and running a region in the duty-free business. After 10 years, I got the early retirement in 2018, and then I decided, to my surprise, to stay in Ukraine.
Why do you say to my surprise?
Well, I struggled in finding a place. I was looking from Portugal to Italy to Thailand to most of the places you could imagine. But finally, a friend asked me, "What matters in your life? Is Ukraine good to you? Do you have good friends?" I say my best friends are in Ukraine. What do you like in Ukraine? I love the way of life. I love the cost benefit. The Swiss franc is working hard. He said, "You're stupid, Martin. You just made the decision." And 2 years later, I bought a small apartment.
Give us some insights to the benefit, because I'm sure the majority of people listening to us now will not really understand what you mean by you like the way of life. As a Swiss German, grew up here. I guess you grew up in Switzerland. What would you say is the difference between the way of life, leaving the cost out of it, the cost of life, because that's a big issue for anywhere you go, because Switzerland is so expensive. Give us an idea of what is the difference or the differences between the life that you lead now as a man in your sort of later years than you'd be living in Switzerland.
Well, let me maybe answer it by putting it differently. When I come to Switzerland, which I dearly love, because my family and friends, old friends, they are still here, whom I visit frequently. My father is turning 91.
Wow.
So I have to enjoy these moments when we can stay together. But whenever the closer I drive to Switzerland, funny enough, I feel like my body starts to shrink, like in a vacuum bag.
No, so really?
Everything is set, everything is done, everything is controlled. It's unreal. In Ukraine, it's just the opposite. I always say to my friends, in Ukraine, nothing is possible. And then they make, but then I say, but everything is possible. So it's very strange to say. The culture is so beautiful. My kids joined me first time a year after I went to Kyiv, and they were 18? The youngest was 10. And I managed expectations, which apparently I'm good at, and told them, listen, this is Soviet, this is dull buildings when you come from the airport and whatnot. It was summer. I took them out. They fell in love. And they gave me feedback. My friends here, my young friends then, very young friends, they didn't understand. What the heck are you going to do in Russia? She said, no, it's Ukraine. There are sandy beaches along the Dnieper. You cannot imagine. You would put this on a...
That's a river, right? That's the river in Ukraine.
That's a major river, yeah, indeed. And you could think you were in the Caribbean if there weren't some old churches behind and buildings. It's just so different. People are so open, so natural. They smile even during the day.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm walking here, go shopping at 9 o'clock because I'm retired during a working day. Everybody is enormously polite. Everybody says hello. But everybody is a kind of, how should I say, demoralized, pulling a face, but very friendly,
very interesting. Listen, Martin, you've really partly answered my second question, but I'm going to take out parts of what I've written down here because I wanted to ask you, even though in a way you've answered it already, how you assess the level of danger to you and your family, and give me some idea of how you get the access you have because of the conflict situation into supplies of energy, supplies of heating, light, water, your personal safety, food availability, all those sorts of things in Kiev, or has that not affected you?
Very good question, Mike. Firstly, with a little kind of a smile, is saying that living is always life-threatening, isn't it? So
yes,
it's a given. Now, factually speaking, 2025 was very tough, namely after the meeting in the north of America with Putin and
in Alaska.
In Alaska, thank you. Yeah, that since then, the daily rate of drones, missiles, glide bombs, literally doubled.
Since the meeting in Alaska?
Yes, it's
My God.
It's BBC information, actually.
Yeah.
2025, 100,000 drones, roughly 60,000 cruise missiles, and about 2,400 ballistic missiles. They come down of nowhere with the speed of up to 10 Mach. So nobody
That's
can...
10 times the speed of sound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, let's be fair. It is horrible what can happen in Kyiv. But when you see the front line, when I hear friends talking about the front line, visiting the front line, this is horror nobody ever can imagine. This is absolute disastrous. In Kyiv, we do have the 8 months I've been there now, last year, we do have at least 1 time the sirens going on, but it can be up to 6 times. So you can imagine how much it uses people who cannot sleep, have to go to work at 7, 8, and have to go to work the whole day. So I'm in a lucky position in this sense. As to the energy, obviously, that's one of the key targets, together with hospitals, playgrounds, and high-rise buildings from the Russians. As to energy, just recently there was a very strong bombardment. They go after the infrastructure, obviously. So there was, just to give you an idea, there was up to 16 hours no electricity in Kyiv. Can you imagine on the front line? That can be weeks, no energy. And once you try to live with energy, this is crazy. Water, lack of water you may have after very heavy bombing for a day or so, but so far that was okay.
And what's the daytime, on the average, what's the daytime temperature in Kyiv at this time of year, roughly?
Now it's exactly like in Switzerland.
Really? Okay.
But generally speaking, you could say it's a continental temperatures, usually. So hot summers and cold winters.
Yeah.
Now,
tell me, can I ask you, sorry, no, go on, finish what you're going to say.
Just maybe one thing to give some insight that might be of interest is the way we are organized after these soon 4 years.
Yeah.
Basically what you have applications, different applications that you share with friends, you communicate with friends. So for example, there is something big coming. They tell you, the secret services have realized that there is a move of strategic bombers behind the Ural, because they had to move them there because they are so exposed and have not enough protection, that they may move to closer to Ukraine to then be loaded. So expect something to happen within the next 2-3 nights. It's always nights.
Yeah.
Then you wait, you're warned, and then you realize there's another app telling it's now going off. So if they shoot from the Caspian Sea, for example, the cruise missiles, they can tell you within 6 to 6.5 hours, if it's Kyiv, they would hit the ground. And then you do have warning systems when the alarm goes off in different areas, and they will show you photos where the drones fly. So, and it goes so close that I always open the windows then, so I hear the drones. It's like a Solex getting louder and louder, and then you run. When you know, because the biggest danger, in fact, is the blast. That's the most accidents. Usually the hits, obviously, they can destroy 3-4 stories of a building of just a drone. But the point is the explosion and the air pressure can make explode windows in a big area. So you are not protected from windows, and that's most of the victims.
but the shrapnel for the flying glass.
That's exactly it, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. And what I wanted to ask you is your description of the nature of the resolve and the determination among your circle of friends and acquaintances to bring this conflict with Russia to a satisfactory conclusion. And then I qualify that, or I ask you basically to help me qualify it. To you personally and to those around you, what would you describe as a satisfactory conclusion to be?
That's obviously a fantastic question. And bottom line, first of all, I would think that what I hear from my friends who visit the borders, who sometimes the kill zones, they say, well, the closer you go to these borders, the higher the resilience, the more they wish not want to give an inch of the country.
I guess we could understand that, huh?
Exactly. They were fighting, they lost people, they lost their own, and then they will ask, is it all for this?
Yeah.
And a satisfactory conclusion is easy to say for a guy like me, including my friends in a relatively safe area, or at least less unsafe area like Kyiv. But many people say this. It means stop negotiating. West, supply us the arms. Russia is economically on its knees. The army is in utter shambles. I don't want to quote what I have heard from some legitimate informations coming in, but it is unreal. So what we would think, what we would say, and many Ukrainians say, but again, it's easy to say when you look at these very brave soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, what they endure. Stop negotiating because there's nobody you can count on.
So just get on with the fighting, but give us the tools, give us the weapons. I think it was Winston Churchill said, give us the tools and we'll finish the job.
But that's it. Now, just to put it in context, Mike, Russia gain in 2025 is 0.7% of the total remaining Ukrainian land versus 400,000 roughly of their casualties, meaning killed, deserted, or disabled. This means closely to 100 casualties per square kilometer. It's enormous. They are not moving ahead. Look at Pokrovsk. A year and a half ago, Putin was celebrating, Pokrovsk is done, we've taken it. Well, it's still not.
Yeah. And of course, these are numbers which we hear quite often in the West, but you're much closer to it, and I can imagine that. Well, yes, if you're meeting people that have been in the kill zone, it brings another level of gravity to the statistics.
Indeed, and let's not forget, Mike, as well, the Budapest Memorandum that you very well know.
Yes.
Where it was agreed that the Ukraine, the third biggest nuclear arsenal, would return its nuclear weapons to Russia. But Russia, Gorbachev, James Baker, USA, Shevardnadze, Kohl, and Genscher, they promised, therefore, to protect Ukraine in case of an aggression. Now look at the US.
Yeah.
I mean, what is this? This is betrayal. So whom can we count on? Ourselves.
Yeah.
Ukraine is now producing roughly, some say 40, some say 45% of their own weapons.
As much as that.
They produce now a Flamingo, it's called a Flamingo, actually, pink cruise missile. They produce now up to 10 per day, 3,000 kilometers they can fly. And they have a precision of 15 meters after 3,000 kilometers with a load of 1.15 tons of explosive. And now look what they do with the infrastructure on Russia, the fuel infrastructure, the refineries. So that's nagging.
From what I read, but please correct me, they've been taking out some of these infrastructures in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a vast country. It must have many of these places.
They do, but they can fly very, very, very far as well, the Ukrainians, with their... So basically what you see now, there is no more fuel or diesel being exported. They have to keep it for themselves. In some states in Russia or oblasts, you see queues of cars. They are 2 kilometers.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And the price goes up.
Let me just move on to something else, which won't surprise you, Martin, but I just want to hear your opinion. You're surely aware, because you travel in and out of the country, that the face of Ukraine, at least to Western onlookers, has been and still is largely President Zelenskyy. I'm sure you're aware of that, and he's widely admired. But how is he regarded in the Ukraine, if that's not too general a question to ask you? What do people say about him?
Well, basically, that's another very, very good point, because it really hurt the Ukrainians themselves immensely, and it hurt the international relations, because...
What hurts them?
Well, what hurt is that in July, Zelenskyy stripped the Anti-Corruption Bureau of independence, and that meant that he would control the Corruption Bureau directly.
Okay.
Sorry, I expected you were asking for this corruption scandal.
Well, let's talk about the corruption scandal.
So there were loads of rallies the day after, and don't tell me this is not a democratic country. Mainly the youth. They went out in the street like in the revolution, Orange Revolution or the Revolution of Dignity, and fought against this, were very, very loud and outgoing. And finally, he pulled it back, and it's now yet again an independent unit. So which is one of the core issues that obviously Ukraine is fighting.
Yeah.
Corruption.
And it's been. I mean, I've been to the country a few times when we were working together, and it's been a long time issue that's been worrying for the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Tell me something again about the Ukrainians and the majority of opinion. Is it the case, as we read in Western media, that Ukrainians prefer to look to the West than look to the North and East for a successful future, or is it not as black and white and clear-cut as that?
I think it's dark gray, if I may say so.
Yeah.
But it's dark gray in favor of the West and growing. My understanding when talking to people across the country, acquaintances, meetings, whatnot, I have a sort of a feeling that there is still some homo Sovieticos around in Ukraine. These are the elderly, let's say at my age and older. They still have sort of a nostalgia of the Soviet Union. It was better then.
Yeah.
But when you talk to the youth, there is no division at all, and the youth is very strong, very well educated, and more powerful. So
do people? I mean, do you come across pro-Russian sentiment in Kyiv, or are people more likely to keep their political inclinations to themselves, to keep them private?
Well, I would think that even among friends, if someone would stand up and show being pro-Russian, that would be a problem.
That wouldn't go down well.
That wouldn't go down well.
I can imagine.
I have many friends, their partners are originally Russian passports. I talk to these people, and I can assure you, they are being kept in peace. There is no aggression, nothing whatsoever. So people they are fine, absolutely fine.
Okay. My guest today is Martin Pfister, a longtime Swiss friend and colleague who's been living in Kyiv for quite a few years, only 18 years, he told me. And we're talking about what his life is like there. Just continuing that theme, Martin, how free are the media, TV, radio, newspapers to express a range of opinions, or has the media rallied around the government in defense of the country? And just give us some examples of the things you watch on TV and the opinions you see and hear, please.
Well, that's another good, only good questions, actually.
Thank you.
Relevant, very relevant. So we all know that the truly propaganda Russians, which were run ultimately by Russian oligarchs, channels, they have been banned very early on, let's say 2-3 months after the big invasion. So
they can't be received at all?
No.
They're banned, okay.
Well, if you VPN, you may get it, but then,
yeah, sure.
then you don't need to be convinced about Russian anymore.
Sure.
Now, friends and I mostly reading British running newspapers, being interviewed, and people being interviewed face no restraints whatsoever. One of my I have a couple of friends. One is Bogdan Mihailo. He is British, but his parents are Ukrainian. He's running Kiev Post.
Yeah.
And we are close friends, and there is absolutely no pressure at anything.
Yeah.
If you're asking me how I'm getting informed, so yeah, obviously some have a tendency to be more propagandistic, if you want, some biased and whatnot. But there is, to name a few, if you don't mind, is the ISW, Institute for the Study of War, which I think is very good. I think the French LCI is good. The TF1, the French one spin-off.
Yeah.
Kiev Post, which is more analytical. Then there is the Kiev Independent, which is a spin-off. They now run their own show and is more investigative.
And they're based in Ukraine. They're not based abroad.
In
Ukraine. Yeah.
Kiev Post is owned by a Syrian gentleman. Then you have a gentleman called Peter Dickinson, some 300 interviews in 25, very sober, very good. There is a gentleman, a very young gentleman, rising. He is called Kaolan Robertson. Amazing. He has now something like from 0 to 300,000 listeners, and he does a very sober, very good job. Some of the BBC, some Farid Zakaria, Euromaidan Press, Spiegel. But if you want to read a book and you want to know more about this war, I could recommend you the Sergei Plokhy, The Gates of Europe, or the Russia-Ukrainian War, which is outstanding.
Okay.
Rights. And
that's good advice.
It's really great. And then there is one, if you want to know a little more about who Putin really is, it's called Putin's People.
Oh, I've seen that on the bookshelves here.
If you believe 10% of it, you will have goosebumps all over.
Okay. Okay.
And apparently, as per New York Times and whatnot, very, very well researched.
Okay, that's good advice. I'll add to my reading list.
Please.
I just got a few more things I want to put to you before we wrap up, Martin.
Yeah.
In your conversations, I'm curious about this. In your conversations that you have with your friends, what's their expressed opinion about the support from the leadership of the United States, support from the leadership of European countries in general, as well as from the European Union in particular, and of course NATO? And does Switzerland ever crop up in the conversations that you have with your friends or in the news that you hear around town?
Well, the US is the easiest to answer because there is one answer, it's betrayal.
Yeah.
As easy as that.
Yeah.
there's nothing more coming now last year from them other than the AWACS, which is very important to have.
Yeah.
As everybody admits.
Yeah.
Starlink pulls off when they want, which was shown during a major counterattack Ukraine wanted to do. They pulled the plug.
What is that again? They pulled?
They pulled the plug, Starlink.
On what? I didn't hear the weapon. Stoplink.
When Ukraine was planning to run a counterattack,
yes,
in their territory against the Russians, they failed because they suddenly didn't have connection anymore. Because
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So U.S. betrayal, that's easy. Other than the surveillance system, that's obviously very, very important. When you look at the facts on the per capita support for the countries, you have countries like Norway, $4,000 roughly, Denmark, 2,400 last year, Estonia, the Baltics, and then it goes down. So the UK is at about 400, for example.
Per person.
Per person.
Yeah.
So it's 10 times less per capita
than
Norway. So is that a lot? Is that little? I don't know. Of course, Ukraine takes whatever they can.
Yeah, sure.
That's
but it's good. It's good when you put it that way, because there's a lot of talk about how much money is being given by these countries, but people don't often talk about it on a per capita basis.
Indeed, that puts things in perspective. And the US is obviously further down. Not only this, but when the NATO or the alliance, in the Western alliance, want to buy weapons from the US, as you know, the US adds an additional 10%.
Yeah.
To the cost. So I believe that NATO, and that's not only me saying, but that's many people saying, imagine, Mike, the Russians' most likely scenario, if they try to push indeed further, would be the Baltic states, right? That's an easy one for them. Does anybody really believe that NATO would then call Article 5, meaning we put New York, Los Angeles, and Frisco under threat of then being bombed?
I find, with the present leadership in the United States, I find that hard to believe.
That's it. And then, so how far does it go then?
Yeah.
I mean, so all I want to say by this, Mike, Ukraine is not naive. People of Ukraine are not naive. They have been let down very badly, and we have to live with them, with that. And when 10% at the beginning of the war was produced locally, now we are at 45%. Key weapons like the robots. I mean, Ukraine now owns the Black Sea. So they don't have a navy. Russia cannot.
I saw that. Yeah.
Cannot do anything anymore.
Yeah. Martin, last two questions. I mean, they're easy questions to ask, but I can imagine not so simple questions for you to answer from that. But you're close to it, or closer to it than I am, certainly. What, in your opinion, will it take to end the war? And as we now just enter this new year, 26, what is your greatest fear, and what do you hope for in this new year?
So let me take out my Jerry's crystal ball.
Yes.
And that's really crystal ball.
Yeah.
So I believe that if the sanctions are maintained by the West, I wouldn't even say maintained, if they are indeed implemented.
Yeah.
Like on the shadow fleets and things like that. If the West moves from words to finally action and just do what they promise, the Moscovites will implode. The economy will implode. That will harm a lot of decision makers, calling the oligarchs. And they cannot take that any further, because soon Russia is at the point of no return. Now, and on top, the army is at another mess now in Russia.
And from what I've been reading, some of the retired generals have been making noises inside Russia towards Putin that things are not going well at all.
Yeah, because there are some whisperers, obviously, who tell him everything is fine. That's why he stated so many times he would have taken Pokrovsk, which he didn't.
Yeah.
Indeed. So then a good end would indeed be if Ukraine would finally get the weapons and mainly the protection of the skies they need.
Yeah.
And it would help them a lot to be even more resilient, because then at least the brave fighters on the front line, they know that their families, their children, their parents, their wives are protected.
Yeah. And your greatest fear and your hope for 26?
Well, my greatest fear is that now when you look at Venezuela, which is hot off the press, suddenly it looks like there is a U.S. part of where they have what they call legitimate reasons to intervene. It's their sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Does that suggest that he has a deal with Putin that you leave me quiet in my area, in my garden, and I leave you quiet in your garden? What is then going to happen with Poland? What is going to happen with Lithuania? So that's a big fear, that the US lets Europe, the European Union, including Ukraine, completely go.
Well, in fact, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, is in grave danger.
Indeed, yeah. My biggest hope is obviously the rebuilding, and the rebuilding better, meaning in quality terms, because the quality as such in Ukraine in the housing and infrastructure is far from being great.
Some of the old Soviet stuff is in the majority.
Rebuild sustainable in a sustainable manner. Environmental protection, so there is a good thing to do. Integrate into the EU.
Yeah,
we are the breadbasket of Europe. There is a beautiful culture, very bright and promising young people, educated very well. IT is a fantastic resource there.
Yeah,
fighting corruption, that's a key issue, and I'm not shy to word it, to name it. And that Europe, maybe even NATO, could use Ukraine warfare experience for a strong and independent Europe.
Absolutely. I mean, they're the people with the greatest know-how right now.
Indeed.
For fighting.
Yep.
Martin, thanks so much for making time for me today and for answering all my questions. It's really good to see you again. Go carefully, please, Martin, in 2026. I wish you well, and I'm sure all your friends who are listening to this, and I know quite a few of them will be, in this new year. And I'm sorry that we're so far away, but when you are in Switzerland, give me a call and we'll have a beer or two or three together.
With great pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Wish you again a very happy New Year. And if I may, a bold Slava Ukraini to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Now answer Heroim Slava.
And tell me what that is in English, because I'm not very good at languages.
Peace to Ukraine, or victory to Ukraine, and you would then answer victory to our heroes.
Well, I support that 100%. My guest today has been Martin Pfister, a long-standing Swiss friend and colleague who's been living in Kyiv for the last 18 years, giving us his impressions of life there. Thanks again, Martin.
Thank you very much, Mike. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the McKay Interview podcast. You can find my show on most of the leading podcast platforms, plus the complete playlist dating back to 2012 can be found by writing The McKay Interview into your browser. Thanks again for listening.